Hey, well, I'm back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at weather for the next week or so, week to 10 days. Got some settled weather coming up. You may have read in the newspapers today, but we've got a spring heat wave on the way. I think, as ever, the headlines are a bit overdone compared to the reality. But we'll get pretty warm over the weekend. But actually, next week, we'll probably see the temperatures dropping back a bit, although high pressure will be very dominant. I'm not sure it'll be as warm as it's going to be over the weekend. I'll have a look at the temperatures and everything else in a moment, and then we'll see when the breakdown to this coming settled weather could occur, because already we may be seeing the first hints of it in around 10 days time, which takes us to around the second half of March. Now, before I get on with the video, I just want to mention the advertised video ads on my pages at gazwebbiz.com. If you press play on the video ad, you'll be supporting gazwebbiz.com, and thanks very much for doing that. So we're going to start off with the GFS temperature and rainfall ensembles. The red line telling us where we should be at this time of the year in terms of the upper air temperatures. We're above average at the moment. We're going to stay above average for several days. It's going to go really warm over the weekend. But you're going to see temperatures dropping back a little bit through the first part of next week, before they perhaps lift up a bit again towards the latter stages but next week. This is the 15th of March just here, and once we get to around the 15th of March, then we do start to see quite a bit of scatter, and very gradually the ensemble members start to edge back down, so that as we get to the end of the chart, which is anything from around the 17th, 18th of March onwards, then we're starting actually to go cooler than average in terms of the ensemble mean, which is the white line just here, which is the average of all the ensemble members. We're going a little bit below average once we get through to the end of the ensemble charts, anywhere from around the 17th, 18th of March onwards. Nevertheless, we've got a good week to 10 days of pretty warm weather coming up in terms of the upper air temperatures. High pressure will be dominant and almost universally dry. This will be ensemble for London, and we see that up to the 15th of March there's hardly any precipitation spikes at all to speak of. They do come back in the second half of the chart associated with this drop in the temperature, so a cooler, more unsettled spell seems likely as we go through to the second half of the month. Now, that's a long way off, so we've got to sort of wait and see a little bit on that, but we have got some agreement between the GFS and the ECMWF for this change in the second half of the month. So my advice, if you enjoy the settled spring-like conditions, is to make the most of it over the next week to 10 days, because it possibly doesn't last as we get through to the second half of March. Now, the temperature anomalies for the next week, which takes us from Thursday the 6th of March to Friday the 14th of March, shows that we're going to be around or maybe slightly above average across the British Isles in those very light red colours. Perhaps not as warm as you'd expect, and certainly not as warm as you'd expect given the newspaper headlines. And the reason, we'll have a look at that in a moment. Temperatures do drop a little bit as we go through into next week. The rainfall anomaly for the next week shows it's going to be driest in the south and the southeast. Actually, not as dry up to north and northwest, near average rainfall for western parts of Scotland. But it is a mainly dry scene. High pressure will be dominant, particularly for England and Wales. This is what's going to happen over the weekend. We're going to find low pressure stalling out to the west, going to get high pressure building to the southeast. We're going to start to pull up this warm southerly flow. That is going to bring some warm temperatures up from the south as we go through into the weekend. It's going to be very nice, particularly for England and Wales over the weekend. A little bit more unsettled always for Scotland and Northern Ireland, and cooler as a result there. But for England and Wales, a very, very nice weekend. But what happens as we go through from Sunday into Monday is that we'll drop a trough down across the country. It's going to be quite a weak trough, but it will be enough to change the air mass. So we'll lose the very warm air that we've got over the weekend. We'll replace it with something cooler. But high pressure will still be dominant. Here we are on Tuesday the 11th of March, with high pressure at 1040 millibars. Very intense area of high pressure, really. It's just that the air underneath that high pressure will be more typical of what you would expect in March, as opposed to the very warm temperatures that we're going to have over the weekend. That high pressure sticks around then as we go through next week up to the 13th. High pressure very much dominating the weather. Could be frost by night, but by day, after any early fog and frost has gone, we'll have some pretty decent warm conditions. Sunny conditions, I should say. So these are the temperatures for Saturday. It's going to be warm across England and Wales, up to the mid-teens, 14, 15 degrees. Cooler for Scotland, because it's going to be more unsettled there. Temperatures will lift up even more as we go through into sunny. There have the maximum temperatures being indicated for Sunday. This is suggesting 16 degrees is possible for a good part of England and Wales. I think we could increase that a little bit more, possibly up to 17 or even 18 degrees on Sunday afternoon. So perhaps that will quantify as a bit of a spring heat wave, although typically in a normal March you would expect to get to 18 Celsius at some point through the month, so it's not that unusual. But it's going to be a very nice day, a very nice weekend actually. For England and Wales with that warm spring-like with those warm spring-like temperatures. As we go through to Monday, the temperatures do drop down. As I say, we're going to bring a trough through Sunday into Monday, so that by Monday, although high pressure is still dominating, because it's in a slightly different position and the air mass is slightly different underneath it, temperatures are back to nearer normal across England and Wales. We're around 10 to 13. And that's how we go through next week then. We keep those temperatures around the seasonal average, somewhere around 10, 12, 13 degrees, quite likely through most of the week. So those headlines about a heat wave next week actually are a little bit wrong. It looks like the peak of temperatures will be over the weekend, and then temperatures will be nearer normal as we go through next week. But a very nice week coming up next week. High pressure will be dominant. Going to be more or less dry away from the north and west of Scotland, and temperatures are average in March are going to feel very pleasant, particularly in light winds. Now, how long is this settled weather going to last? Here we are on Friday, the 14th of March, still with high pressure dominating. As we saw on the ensemble, as we get through to the second half of the month, it's likely to turn more unsettled, and the operational GFS does show this morning. Here we are on the 15th of March, still with high pressure more or less in control, but going through to Sunday the 16th, high pressure is starting to slip away to the south, low pressure starting to come through. As we go through to Monday the 17th, we're back firmly in a westerly flow with low pressure to the north of Scotland. The high pressure slipped away to the southwest. It's much more unsettled. It's also cooler as well. It brings some quite cold air down from Iceland. And actually, that would be cold enough as we go through to Tuesday the 18th. Long way off, 300 hours away, but it would be cold enough to produce some wintry showers for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. But the main idea, never mind that, the main idea is that we keep it settled up around the 15th, then after the 15th it turns more unsettled. That's the GFS. What about the ECMWF? Again, for Friday the 14th, next Friday, high pressure really dominant across the country, so the whole of next week is likely to be dominated by high pressure. Go through to the weekend of the 15th, 16th, we start to see the high pressure slipping away from the south. It's still more or less in control for southern parts, but this area of low pressure around Iceland is developing. It's pushing this high pressure way to the south and the southwest, and quickly after this chart, we had another chart to go through to. We can't go beyond Sunday the 16th, day 10 on this model, but if we could, it would be firmly back into unsettled conditions by Monday the 17th of March. So it does look as though we're going to have about a week to 10 days of high pressure dominating. A week for the north, perhaps up to 10 days for the south. Beyond that, though, once you get through to the second half of March, cooler, more unsettled conditions looks like the way we're going to go. So make the most of the settled weather coming up over the weekend. Going to be a superb weekend for much of England and Wales. Do enjoy it. Going to be really warm, nice sunshine as well. Going to stay settled through next week, although temperatures will drop back to nearer normal. And then the second half of the month could well turn a good deal more unsettled. That's the plan today. It could all change tomorrow, so come back for tomorrow's update. And that's it for now. Thanks for watching.